This is my 1966 Fender Mustang, and yeah, I got it for free. Welcome everybody to the 11th Fret. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. If you're new, please consider hanging around and watching the video and maybe even subscribing. So yeah, you actually heard me right. I got this 1966 Fender Mustang for free with a little bit of a catch. There's a twist. I kind of want to go over it a little bit because I find it to be an interesting story. I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's a cool story, bro, sort of thing, but I don't know. I thought it might be fun to share with you guys because it's recent. It's something that has come up in the last year and a half or so. It's something I've restored to some degree, and it's a fun instrument to play. So how this began is that my wife and I have this couple. It's an old family friend of ours who we'd recently helped get through kind of a major crisis. We stepped up and we just kind of did some dirty work for them as far as like cleaning and stuff like that. It's another story for another time. One day out of the blue, I get a phone call from the wife and she says, "We have a friend who's interested in selling his 1964 Fender Mustang. Would you be interested?" Yeah, of course. At that point in time, I'm trying to contain my bowels and not ruin my shorts. But yeah, I was definitely interested. Now I did tell her that I wasn't really in a financial position to buy a 1964 Fender Mustang because these can be very pricey. I had no photos of it. I didn't know what condition it was in. I even asked her, I said, "Do you know what it looks like? Do you know if it's beat up?" She had no idea. So we arranged for me to go over there and at least take a look at it because at the very least, I thought I could possibly assess it and put a value on it. So they could get top dollar for it in the right avenue. So we arranged for that. I go over to our friend's house to meet up with them first, and then the husband and I jump into my car and we drive over to this other person's house to take a look at this. When we arrive, I had never met this person before. He's really cool, but also very eccentric, very loud, hyper talker, just had a lot to say, and you could tell he was busy. He was always working on cars and choppers and his house. There's a lot of stuff going on in this person's world. We made our small talk, a lot of formalities, what have you, and lo and behold, we pull out this black Tolex guitar case. So I opened up the case, and inside of it was this guitar in this brown finish. The pickguard had not been fastened down. The strings were removed, but also coiled up, and they looked to be bronze, like they're acoustic strings. The switch here was broken, there was no knobs, and this is not the original neck. The neck that was attached was this one. This neck, it was just heartbreaking. Who would do such a thing to a Fender headstock? I understand Fender headstocks aren't for everybody, but to go from a Fender headstock to that's just cruel. I didn't know if this was authentic. I was a little curious if this was like an older copy. And so I said I would need to really take this thing apart if you don't mind. He's like, yeah, man, go ahead and take it home. Because at this point in time, I'm just looking at this and I don't know what it is. Sure, it has Fender tuning machines on it, but that could be put onto anything. Now, granted, the tuning machines are very aged, but again, I don't know if that means something or not. But the neck wood, this Brazilian rosewood on here is stunning. I don't know, man. He let me just take it because we discussed that I could just pay him something later. We never named a number, and I was a little nervous about that because I don't know if it was in his head that I was going to give him like $2,000 or $3,000. I mean, you know that there's those sellers out there who think that their stuff is worth way more than it is. We talked about that in a previous video, and that was actually kind of a huge surge for this channel for that matter. But I was nervous about looking over this guitar, so I was very, very, very careful. But he just went ahead and said, start modifying it. Do what you need to do and just let me know later. So I did. But first I had to figure out what year it really was because it was stated that it was a 1964 Fender Mustang. Back to this neck for a moment. I took it off because, I mean, this headstock, I mean, seriously. And I wanted to see what it said on the heel. So not much on the heel, but right down here on the bottom, this is typical Fender. It says November 8th, 1965. B. This neck was made at the end of 1965, and this is really, really spot on with Fender's MO. But that wasn't enough for me, so I had to take a look a little bit further, and since the pickguard wasn't really affixed down to the body, I just lifted it up, and I saw that the pickups were dated. I want to say it was like December 3rd, 1965, but yeah, the pickups were wound in December, the neck was made in November, so I kind of had to do the math in my head and said, you know what, this is not going to have hit the shelves. in 1965. This would have hit the shelves in 1966. Therefore, it probably would have been a 1966 Fender Mustang. So at that point in time, I decided to start doing some ordering. I had to look around. I was on eBay, Reverb, you name it, looking for period accurate parts that would reflect this guitar quite well. Because again, this pickup switch was broken. There was nothing here to grab. There was no knobs. The tuning machine on this neck was wrong. I mean, there was a few things that were bothering me. And I looked over this guitar. I mean, this brown finish is not factory. This is not how it came. It was refinished by the previous owner, and in not a very good way too, because right here on the horns it looks like they used an electric sander, like a really aggressive one. It had a heavy grit, and they just ate away at the horns here and here. It breaks my heart, it really does. But it is what it is. You can't bring wood back. Once you've gone too far, you've gone too far. From that point in time, I wasn't really sure how much I wanted to invest in this guitar, because I don't want to put too much money into it and have it be something that's just going to be a money pit, right? I mean, I could make this thing a player for far less than making it period accurate. So there's that fine line you got to walk. But I still wanted to do as much as I possibly could without breaking the bank. So I did. I found this switch. It's a Switchcraft from that era, around 1965-66. I got these knobs off of a 1966 Fender Mustang as well. And I ordered a tuning machine for this one over here, this other neck, for the high E string, which was not given a date, but it was aged. It was something from that era, and that was that. But I still didn't know what I was going to do with it, because as I looked a little bit further, I thought there was what I thought to be hair coming out of the pickups here, but it ended up being the form bar wire. The pickups themselves were severed. They needed to be repaired. There was no sound. I was getting no readings on these pickups whatsoever. So it didn't matter what I did to this guitar, it wasn't going to make any sound until I had that part fixed. Problem with Mustang pickups is, especially vintage ones that were wound in December of '65, is they are going to be expensive. There's something to be valued, something to be cherished. I immediately reach out to Fender's master builders, and I sent a message to Ron Thorne over at Fender, and I asked him, I said, you know, this is a Fender product back in the day. If you had this in your hands, who would you send it to? And Ron didn't hesitate, and he said, bring it to Rob Timmons over at Arcane. Rob just happens to be around the corner. I mean, I could walk over to Rob's shop. Ron didn't know this. It just seemed to be serendipitous for my own sake. So I called Rob. He only charged me $50 a pickup to repair it, and he had it done in a couple days. It was awesome. He did a great job. If you don't know Rob Timmons over at Arcane Pickups, or Arcane Pickups themselves, they're outstanding pickups. I mean, they are high-end boutique pickups, and a lot of people from George Lynch to Phil X, you name it, all use his pickups. It's just amazing stuff. I had a few other choices out there to rewind my pickups for me as well, but Rob was just right there, and the price was spot on. I mean, everybody else were charging anywhere between $50, $60, $70 for a pickup repair. Rob was only charging $50. That was spot on, and he's right there. I could just go get him. No big deal. No shipping involved, no nothing. He had these pickups back to me, and I got this guitar wired up and strung it up. I had a nut put onto the old neck, but it was still buzzing out like crazy. The neck was not in good shape. I mean, I could already see it. It was warped. Up near the high E string, there was a dip right in the middle of the neck, and then on the low E side, like right over here, it was straight as an arrow. So dip over here, straight over here. And the frets were pretty ground down hard as well. So I decided, all right, I'm gonna keep this neck on here. I am going to bring it over to Tina Wood over at the Amp Shop, Bass Exchange over in North Hollywood. Tina, if you don't know who Tina is, she is like one of the go-to guitar techs in the Valley, if not in all of LA County. She's trusted by so many professional guitar players, so much so where even if I travel to another state and I mention her name, everybody's like, oh man, Tina, she's amazing, how is she? That's who I went to. And Tina was very straightforward. She looked at the neck right away and she's like, I could refret it and try and get this neck back to straight. However, it's gonna cost you more than the neck's worth. It's up to you. And I said, that's a great point. I don't think I wanna straighten and fix a neck with this headstock on it. I mean, I'm not trashing this neck at all. Don't worry, don't freak out. I know how you guys are. I saw your comments in the last video. You guys don't watch the whole damn thing and then start commenting like crazy. I decided I don't think I wanna use this neck. So who am I gonna go with? Am I gonna try and find the actual Fender neck, something from that time period? Because no one would really ever know, honestly. If I found another 1965, especially, and I did find a November 8th, 1965 neck. It was perfect. But they wanted like $1,000 for the neck. And again, I still have to contend with this body that's been refinished and slightly reshapen. So I didn't want to put $1,000 into a neck. I just didn't want to do it. It didn't make any sense because the market right now, due to COVID, has been so freaking nuts that people went from asking like $400 for those necks like 3 years ago to all of a sudden $1,000 because everybody's a hobbyist. I decided that I should probably just order an all parts neck. Kind of hurt my soul a little bit to do it. Now, all parts are great necks. They really are. I'm not dogging on all parts whatsoever. I love all parts necks. I just felt weird putting a made in Japan all parts neck on a 1966 Fender Mustang body. But then I dug deeper. I really dug deeper on this one. I thought, you know what? This neck is a little more than I'd want to pay for an all parts neck because it was already finished and it had a pre-relic done. It was really well built. It had a vintage amber tint already sprayed on it and then just this wear down right here. It feels great. And I thought, you know what? I just want a neck because I would be doing this guitar a giant disservice by shelving it because this stupid neck over here. Just get a neck on it and start playing it, right? I mean, does it matter? I decided it didn't matter at all. I just needed to get the neck, so I did. The neck arrived and I also ordered a Fender water slide decal to put on top of here because I wanted to try and make it look authentic. I didn't want to make it look like a parts caster. I wanted it to catch attention. Yes, it's still a Fender. It really is. Leo Fender in the beginning wanted these things to be repaired and replaced. That's why they're bolted on. He wanted that to be the reality for these kinds of guitars. And honestly, all parts, they're made in Japan necks. They also make necks for Fender. Fender does not make necks in Japan. They contracted out to the same company that makes these. So it's kind of arguably a Fender neck. That's how I justified putting a water slide decal on there, and I honestly did a bang up job. I mean, you could barely see the seams on this thing. This is awesome. So now I have this complete guitar, and when I put this neck on, it was perfect. Even when I unboxed it, the neck was identical to the original neck that came on it, including the B profile. The other thing I really had to do though was find new tuning machines, and I wanted to find aged tuning machines, but here's the problem. Fender doesn't make sets of Mustang tuning machines. They sell them individually and they do not come in a road worn option or anything like that. So you have to buy these things a la carte at like $13 a tuning peg. That really kind of ate my soul a little bit. I don't know why they would sell them individually because, I don't know. I mean, I could see why if you're trying to replace a broken vintage tuning machine, but let me explain this one to you about how these are different. These tuning machines on here are not vintage spec at all. At all. These require 10mm drilling. This is modern spec. The bushings that go on the front here are also bigger. There is no way to make these things vintage spec. So again, I don't know why they would sell these a la carte, one by one, because if a tuning machine on this neck broke, and I saw these and said, oh great, man, that's awesome, I can get a new tuning machine thrown on there, no problem. They're reissuing these. These are not a reissue. This is a facade to look like something it isn't. Another thing that was wrong with it, I had the tuning machines off of this original neck, and that's how I really knew that the tuning machines were wrong. But the tuning machines also line up on the back of this headstock perfectly. Everything's in a straight line. There's no overlap whatsoever. When I threw on the new tuning machines to the old neck, obviously they wouldn't go all the way through the holes, but I also noticed there was a lot of overlap on how these tuning machines lined up side by side with each other. And I thought, that's not right. Are the measurements wrong? They're not wrong. I had already started figuring how I could possibly make that work on this one. So I drilled wider on this neck. It broke my heart to do it, but I broke out the drill press. I did it nice and slow where there'd be no splintering. I got these tuning machines in place. They were perfectly lined up except for the fact that these little tabs in between the tuning machines were overlapping slightly. And that ate away at me a lot because Fender is so much better than that. I don't understand who decided to have these tuning machines manufactured, who didn't quality check them. They all did this. So they're coming off the factory line this way. I wish that they sold these things in packs of 6 as they should be sold, and that way they can quality check them a lot better than they have been doing when they are one by one. But I made it work. I made them overlap. It kind of hurt a little bit to do it, but I didn't want them to not be perfectly lined up. So I did it. And honestly, you really can't see it, can you? I don't think you can see it. I don't really notice it unless I'm really looking at it. I mean, it's there, but I don't know. It's okay. Make it work. These tuning machines hold tune quite well. I don't have any tuning issues whatsoever, and that's that. So when I plugged it in, it was magic. I've never owned a Mustang before. I come from a heavy metal background, at least as a fan. I liked high gain, high output pickups. These things are the absolute lowest gain possible, but they have their place. They are that sound that Ben Gibbard gets with Death Cab for Cutie. And I know he has his own signature Fender Mustang as well. I'm getting the same exact tones of certain songs right through this guy here on high gain through the amp. That's the funny part. I can crank my amp up and throw a lot of distortion on it. This thing will make that high gain amp sound like it's just got an overdrive pedal on. I kind of like that. It gives me a lot of control, a lot of flexibility. It's not for everybody. I've seen people put hot rails into these things. That's a crime. Don't do it. Let your Fender Mustang be a Fender Mustang. So after spending considerable time trying to find the right parts and ordering the neck and getting the water slide decal on and setting the guitar up, I had this crazy feeling that enough time had gone by where the person who handed me the guitar might be wondering where I went. Did I owe him money? Things like that. I mean, it's reasonable, right? It is, of course. So I reach out to my friend, the lady who introduced me to the whole idea, and I said, hey, has your friend tried to contact you at all to wonder about where I am and where his money might be? And she was really cool. She's like, no, he really never has. We've talked to him many times and your name has never come up. So I talked to the husband next because the husband goes over there a lot. I asked him about it. He's like, no, honestly, I don't think he's gonna ever ask you any money for it. Now, I could have easily just walked away at that point in time and wiped my hands clean and said, sweet, free guitar. And that's how I led into this video, right? Well, I just couldn't do that because I remember walking his house when I picked up the guitar to begin with. When I picked up this guitar, he also showed me an Ovation Celebrity that he had, which an ex-girlfriend had totally and straight up did a Pete Townsend on and smashed his guitar. It was pretty. It was a pretty guitar and he was very proud of it, but it was not in pieces, but it was just shattered. The top was completely splintered up, not playable at all. So I remembered that, and I had an Ovation here that wasn't getting a lot of use. It was an Ovation Glenn Campbell signature model that had the single cutaway on there, and I was never playing it. It might be loved more with him because he was very proud of his Ovation. Let me give him a Glenn Campbell signature model. I hope he likes Glenn Campbell. So I thought I'd take a shot. So I call my two friends and I say I want to bring it over and see what would happen. Because I couldn't just not give the guy something. I mean, I could have paid him, but I really had no money, and I made that case to begin with. There was not a lot for me to pay him with. I would have to sell a lot of things just to give him money for that. And again, I don't know how much this guitar is even worth put together with how much money I'd already spent. So I brought the Glenn Campbell signature model over to his house. As soon as I showed it to him, he was misting up. He was trying to hold back tears because this guy was so cool. He is someone who will give the shirt off his back to anybody in need. At the time, he had this homeless woman who he befriended and wanted to give her a second chance. So she moved in and she was doing great stuff around the house, trying to just make her life better. And he loved having her there and she seemed to be doing better. And that's the kind of guy that he was. And as I walked away after giving him the guitar, my buddy, he was like, you know, no one ever does that for him. He always gives and no one ever gives back. So I felt really good about that. I mean, yeah, I could have paid him cash. Maybe I should have sold the guitar and given them the money. I don't know. But he was happy, and I think that's what matters in the end, is that he was flattered and he had a working acoustic guitar again that he wanted to play. So I think it was a win-win. pretty sure. So yeah, I didn't really get the Fender Mustang for free. If we're thinking about like trading things away and money invested into parts and things like that, no, I had to spend money on this thing. But as far as the raw item is concerned, it being handed to me, yeah, I got it for free. Totally got it for free. And I could have kept it without giving him anything. I didn't have to give him an Ovation Glenn Campbell signature model. I didn't have to ever go back. It was my choice. And I wanted to do the right thing. So that's what I did. I gave him a Glenn Campbell signature acoustic, and that was that. Now, there's more to that story that I'm gonna share at another time. And let me give you a little teaser on that one. I got 4 guitars on that trip. Yes. 4 guitars. Only one other one was worth a damn. The other 2, they're kind of fun, but one other was pretty awesome. But I'm curious to know, have you ever received a free guitar from a relative, from a friend, from, I don't know, maybe even a stranger? That might be weird, but I mean, and when I say free guitar, I mean someone actually gave it to you. You didn't just take it. Let me know in the comments what it was. I'm curious to know. I mean, I feel kind of strange sharing this story. I feel like I'm bragging, but it is a story, and I don't know, I hope it might have brightened your day or whatever. Maybe it makes you a little jealous and you might hate me a little bit more because I got it and you didn't. I don't know. We all have our thing. But yeah, that's how I got this guitar for free. Now again, you're probably gonna comment below if you want, and please do. I don't wanna discourage anybody from commenting, but yeah, I had to buy the neck. Yeah, I had to buy the tuning machines. Yeah, I had to have the pickups repaired. Yeah, I had to buy the vintage parts. A lot of things went into this guitar. All said and done with the actual build out, I think I paid like $420, $430, something like that. And that's a small price to pay for a vintage guitar. Now, I know it's technically a parts caster now. It is, but you know what it is as well? It's a player. It's something that's gonna continue to make sound and has the ability to create new music for somebody else to listen to and enjoy. And I think that is worth that money in general, especially considering I could buy like a made in Mexico or a Squier vintage modified Mustang for about the same price new. I got a vintage one. These pickups were worth it, and I'm really into it. I do appreciate you guys coming right on back. If you do like content like this, make sure you like and even maybe entertain the idea of subscribing to the channel, because it helps the channel grow. And honestly, the last video I did was such a huge surge for this channel. I got on the algorithm somehow, and whoa, did that video ever take off. So all that said and done, thank you guys for coming on back. I really appreciate you guys coming to see me, and I will see you guys on the next video. Take it easy, everybody.